Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Before I start this presentation, let me introduce myself. My name is Amirjan Mohamed Juhini. I am from Pharmacy Department UMI from LPC FM 1. Okay, in here, I will presenting my research paper titled Students' Difficulties in Understanding Material During Online Class. Okay, in here I will explain uh, some part of this paper. The first is introduction, the second literature review, the third is research method, the fourth is findings, the fifth discussion, and the last is conclusion. Okay, the first part is introduction. So the introduction of the paper, COVID-19 is caused a global pandemic. The COVID-19 virus has changed all aspects of people's life. All activities are carried out online due to prohibition on leaving the house in order to break the chain of spreading the virus, which has claimed many victims. The existence of the COVID-19 virus has caused change in many aspects, one of which is education. The change in the learning system from face-to-face to online caused students to experience some difficulties. Okay, the next slide. Okay, the purpose of my paper is to find out the students' difficulties in understanding material, especially when online class. And in here, some main formulation of my research paper. The first is what students think about online class. Second, what problems and difficulties are felt by students in understanding the material when online class. And the third, what are the students doing to understand the material during online class? Okay, the next slide. Okay, the next slide is the second part of my paper, is literature review. Literature review is divided in two parts. The first is theoretical framework, and the second is empirical review. Next slide. Okay, the first part of literature review is theoretical framework. In here, I'll explain about definition of online class or online learning. Okay, based on Kutarto in 2017, online learning is learning that is able to bring together students and lecturers for carry out learning interaction with the help of the internet. And based on GICAS and Grant 2013, at the implementation level, online learning requires the support of mobile devices such as smartphone or Android phones, laptop, computer, tablet, and the iPod, which can be used to access information anytime and anywhere. Okay, the next slide is empirical review. Based on the result of an evaluation by Comdikbud, there were 33.51% of students who were able to understand online learning material. 30.90% understand the material well, and 5.64% understand the material very well. And another study conducted by Rimba Hamid et al. 2020 show if the main supporting factors of the effectiveness of virtual learning in the COVID-19 period are the carrying capacity of network access and the ability of device to access the internet, and study perceive that the implementation of virtual learning in the COVID-19 period has not been fully effective. On the next slide, the third part in research paper is research method. Okay, in research method, in here I use qualitative research was chosen to use interview method was chosen to find out the student difficulties in understanding material, especially when online class. This research was conducted to five students on pharmacy department of UMY who is already in fourth semester. And in this study, the researcher or have give some question to participant, and this data collection instrument in here I use handphone, voice recording device, and writing instrument. And the interview method, the first I contact the participant, explains about the interview. The next is interview by WhatsApp voice call, collect and analyze the data, and make conclusion based on the interview. Okay, the next slide. Okay, the next slide. Uh, or maybe before I going to next slide, in here I'll explain my question and I give with my respondent or participant. Okay, the first question is, what do you think about online class? The second question is, do you feel difficult with the online learning method and what is your reason? The third question is, how about assignment and materials during online class? Do you feel difficult? The fourth question, are you able to understand the material well during online class and what is your reason? The five, what are the things that make you feel difficult when online class? The sixth question is, do you think this online class is effective and why? The last question or the seventh question is, how do you understand the material during the online class? Okay, the next part is findings. So in the finding here, uh, my data presentation, the first is what the respondents feel about online class. The second, problems and difficulties experienced by respondent when online class. And the third is the respondent due in understanding the material in class. Again, the next is based on data, we know that our respondent initially found it difficult when there was a change from face-to-face learning system to an online class. The second, there are several things that make it difficult for our respondents to be able to understand the material when online class. And the third is our respondent uh, rewatch the video and delivery of material from the lecture, and some respondents have their own way of understanding the material when online class. And the next slide is about discussion. In discussion, for goal of this paper, this study seeks to find out the student difficulties in understanding material, especially when online class. Now, our respondents feel this online learning system is not effective and difficult because it's different with face-to-face learning method. But over time, my respondent have a online feel online learning system has become easier. And the result of this research show if there are several things that make it difficult for students in this in this online learning system. For example, because bad internet problems, inadequate device, and interference from people around you. And the result of the research indicates that each student has their own way to understand the material and online class. For example, to rewatch the lecture video in when class is done, and you can focus when the class is start. You can take note when the class is start. You too can read a book from ISC or Pharmacy Islamic Study Club. And the next slide is about conclusion. The final part of this paper. In conclusion, uh, at first, the student felt this online system was difficult, but over time it became easier based on my participant or respondent explained. And then, although there are some difficulties in this online system, but students have their own ways to solve that problem. For example, to rewatch the video from the online class by lecture and take note when the class start, and you can focus when the class is start. And I think I just suggest you uh, to prepare the before the online class start. You can search the material or journal before the class start, and you can prepare your time, prepare your time, and prepare your internet, and you can prepare your device. And I think for the government and the university can provide adequate internet and quota systems or provide other infrastructure so the learning process can run comfortably for the lecturer and the student of basically for the student of pharmacy OME. And maybe thank you for your attention and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.